And as anti-American protests spread from country to country, the U.S. is taking extra precautions. Among them, NATO is suspending joint missions in Afghanistan indefinitely. This after a suicide attack in Afghanistan killed 12 people. A group allied with the Taliban claimed responsibility and reportedly said it was a response to the anti-Muslim film produced here in the U.S. Now NATO's strategy on the ground in Afghanistan faces new hurdles, with NATO announcing it will suspend training the Afghan army. This is seen as critical for Afghanistan being able to fight the Taliban once the U.S. pulls out of the country. So what does this all mean for the future of Afghanistan and the U.S.'s relationship with the country? To discuss, I'm joined now by Anthony Schaefer from the Task Force on National and Homeland Security at the Center for Advanced Defense Studies. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you for having me on.
The mission to train allies in the Afghan army has been put on hold. How will that impact the U.S.'s strategy in the region?
One quick note, according to your past guest, I shouldn't be on since I did Fox twice today. So just be aware that, I think the analysis that Fox does is worthwhile. With that said, I think we have to look at the fact that the mission today is now in jeopardy by the fact that you have a cornerstone of the mission, which is basically creating a secure environment for the Afghans to take over that mission is now completely in jeopardy. And not a little bit. We're talking about the entire thing being shut down with no restart date. And Liz, I've been on your show before. I think we talked about this before. This is not something that should have been new or surprising to the DOD. This is something we predicted three years ago. I talked to Christian Hughes, one of the kids who almost got killed 3 years ago, and even he knew back then that this was going to be something the Taliban had continued and expanded as we got closer to our departure. So that's what we're seeing right now.
So it sounds like this newest development is a major setback.
It's a huge setback. And again, this is actually taking out the cornerstone. This is like when you're building a bridge and you got to put that piece in the middle that makes it all hold together. You've pulled out that piece. And frankly, there's a real disconnect, a real lack of ideas on how to go forward. And I said in an earlier interview on another network, one of the things we did back in the 80s and did it very well was training foreign forces to basically become cadre to train others. We did that by pulling the individuals out of the country. I think part of the problem here is we've got people in the environment in which they're going to have to serve, and they're not getting a clean break and clean training. We would bring people in from Latin America, bring them to Fort Bragg, train them as a unit, and send them back in. That's one of the reasons that our strategy was effective in Latin America, but is failing badly in Afghanistan.
Now, Anthony, I'd like to play a clip from Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta, him talking about this latest development. Let's take a listen.
Sure.
I don't think that these attacks indicate that the Taliban is stronger. I think what it indicates is that they're resorting to efforts that try to strike at our forces, try to create chaos, but do not in any way result in their regaining territory.
So there he is, out of the words of the Secretary of Defense. He's saying the Taliban isn't regaining territory. It does not mean that the Taliban is stronger. They're trying to create chaos. But Anthony, to an extent, isn't that what's happening?
Exactly. He's living the same alternate universe as Secretary Rice is from her comments yesterday. The Taliban have clearly gained initiative. This is not a new thing. Again, the green on blue violence is an indicator of how much they've been able to infiltrate. And the other thing that I don't know why he doesn't, Secretary Panetta has to know this, is how the Taliban have established a shadow government. That's why they're so effective in what they're doing. Every province except one now has a shadow Taliban government, which is frankly competing with the Karzai government for the integrity, for the loyalty of the people. So what he's saying has no merit. And frankly, I'm appalled that he would be so able and willing to say total fiction to the American people and to the world.
So ultimately, does this provide the Taliban an opportunity to now step up its attacks?
It's inevitable, and I think they will. Again, because we gave them the date we're leaving. And frankly, I heard Jay Carney double down again, saying we're not changing the departure date. Look, Liz, no matter how you feel about this, you never tell your adversary when you're leaving. You don't tell them when you're going to invade. You don't tell them how many people you send. You don't tell them this because now, over the next 2 years, they're going to continue to increase the veracity of their attacks. And there's nothing to hold them back. They know we're leaving. So they can literally wait us out. Our only hope now is to actually engage the Pakistanis and looking at ways forward here, because the Pakistanis, frankly, have as much as we to lose if things continue to deteriorate, because they have their own Taliban problem at this point.
Now, a NATO spokesperson said the halt will apply, quote, only until the threat level returns to a tolerable level. I mean, that's very open-ended. When is that going to happen? It sounds like he's banking on things just getting better with time.
You're giving the Taliban time to do more mischief and plan more. It's insane. You're not going to get anything better. And again, the only alternative they have right now is to start doing the vetting they should have done from day one, what they failed to do. And as I mentioned, your only hope now is to start pulling Afghans out, moving them to a third country, maybe Germany, building them as a cohesive unit, a cadre, if you will, training them to be trainers, training the trainers, and sending them. And that's your only hope at this point, because you're never going to be able to establish and sustain a 300,000-man 21st century military in the form of an Afghan army.
And lastly, Anthony, I want to ask you, these attacks, this is in the wake of what's described as a series of insider attacks. I mean, is this a sign that the U.S. hasn't gained much ground in terms of winning the trust of the Afghan people in a situation that's just growing more unstable?
There are some folks, Liz, who are truly loyal to us. We are truly loyal to them. They're a minority. You're talking about trying to bring people into the military who basically cannot read or write. Their basic loyalty is to their family and to their tribe. You're not going to upset and change 2,000 years of cultural momentum. You can influence it, but you cannot change it. So this is where we have to be smarter about how we proceed. Doing the same thing over and over will not get us better results.
All right, Anthony. Pleasure to have you on the show as always. That was Anthony Schaefer from the Task Force on National Security, National and Homeland Security at the Center for Advanced Defense Studies.